Hey everyone, we've got a wild weather pattern unfolding and things are about to get intense. Over the next 4 days, we're looking at not one, but two major winter storms, bringing heavy snow, ice accumulation, and even the return of severe weather, including the potential for damaging winds, hail, and yes, even tornadoes. And if that's not enough, there's another winter storm brewing for the middle of next week, which could track even farther south than what we're dealing with now. So in today's forecast, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about what's coming over the next 7 days. Let's start with what's happening right now because there's already a lot to talk about. At this moment, a major winter storm is forming across the Central Plains and Midwest. Moderate to heavy snowfall is already coming down in a lot of places, and it's only going to intensify as we move through the morning and into the afternoon. If you're out riding, take it slow. There's already a lot of snow and ice on the roads. This system is pushing into the Midwest and Northern Ohio Valley later today, and by tomorrow, parts of the Northeast will start seeing snow and freezing rain as well. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Meanwhile, we've also got a long plume of moisture coming in from the Pacific Ocean, fueling a serious flood threat, and even severe weather in parts of the Southeast. There's a real possibility of tornadoes today, including a chance for an isolated strong one along the Gulf Coast. And speaking of severe weather, there's a chance we go live for coverage later today. So make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications turned on. You don't want to miss it if we go live. Now back to the winter storm. Snow and freezing rain are already hitting the Central Plains, the Western Midwest, and even parts of the Southern Plains, including areas like southwestern Oklahoma and near Joplin, Missouri. If you're in these areas, again, take it easy on the roads. The previous winter storm that impacted the Midwest has mostly moved out, but there are still lingering patches of snow and freezing rain. Some schools are still closed because of it, so check ahead if you have travel plans. But as we move deeper into today, this new storm is really going to ramp up. We're expecting moderate to heavy snow across Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, and southern Wisconsin, while lighter snow will spread into Nebraska, Kansas, and central Iowa. And the heaviest snow will fall in bursts with snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in some spots, though it will lighten up as the system moves through. Freezing rain and sleet will also continue across parts of Missouri into the late morning and early afternoon. By 3 p.m., snow will be blanketing parts of the Midwest and Northeast, with some of the heaviest pockets near northeastern Illinois and northwest Indiana. But while all this is happening, we've got to talk about the severe weather threat back in the deep south. Once again, we may be going live for coverage later today, especially since I do expect a few tornadoes to develop. By the time we hit 5 or 6 p.m., snow will still be falling across the Great Lakes and Northeast, while severe storms continue to be a problem in the deep south. Looking ahead to Thursday, the majority of the snow will shift into far northern New England with a little bit of freezing rain in central New England. If you're out in these areas, take it slow in the morning, but by the afternoon, most of this system will be moving out, leaving just some lake effect snow behind. And now let's turn our attention to the West Coast because things are about to get really wet. By Thursday, a new system will be dumping a ton of rain and snow across California. Some areas could see as much as 4 to 6 inches of rainfall, and that's going to lead to flooding concerns and even possible mudslides. We'll break all of that down in just a minute, but this storm is important because it's actually going to set up our next big winter storm, which could even bring a severe weather outbreak on Saturday. Speaking of snowfall totals, here's what we're expecting. A large swath of 4 to 8 inches of snow is likely from northern Kansas into northwestern Illinois. Southeastern Wisconsin and areas north of Chicago could see even higher totals, possibly up to 10 inches, thanks to lake effect snow. Around Chicago itself, most places will see 3 to 6 inches. In Michigan, we're looking at around 3 to 6 inches as well, while Nebraska, Iowa, and central Missouri will likely get 2 to 5 inches. Over in the Northeast, most areas won't see much snow from this storm unless you're in northern Maine, where heavier accumulations are possible. Now, let's talk about ice accumulation. Most of this will happen from northern Ohio through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, with up to 1/10 of an inch of ice possible. That's enough to make roads slick, but power outages aren't a huge concern with this kind of accumulation. Freezing rain has already impacted parts of Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, but an additional 1/10 of an inch of ice is still possible in some areas through the afternoon. Right? And remember, winter storms aren't just about snow and ice. There's almost always a severe weather component, and today's storm is no exception. The main concern in the deep south is damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes, with the potential for an isolated strong tornado this morning. We're seeing some storms out there, but by early afternoon, conditions will become more favorable for severe weather, especially across the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and western Georgia. Some of the tornado parameters are getting pretty high, around 5 to 6 on the scale, so we need to watch this closely. Storms will start ramping up after lunchtime with an initial threat for damaging winds and hail. By late afternoon, we could see embedded tornadoes within a squall line, but the bigger concern will be any discrete supercells that form ahead of the main line. Those are the ones that have the best chance of producing tornadoes. As we head into the evening, the severe threat shifts into Georgia and the Florida Panhandle, with damaging winds being the main issue overnight. By tomorrow morning, most of the storms will have moved east, and by midday, the severe threat will start to die down. Looking ahead, we have another major winter storm developing this weekend with snow and freezing rain for the Midwest and Northeast, and another round of severe weather for the Deep South. This one could be more intense than today's setup, with a larger risk for damaging winds and even strong tornadoes. As we move further north, things are much chillier. The temperature gradient is really sharp, and if you're in the Red River area this morning, you're looking at temperatures around freezing. Freezing rain is already starting in parts of Oklahoma, and it will continue to move east. By the time we get into Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa, the rain will change to snow, and that will keep moving northeast through Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. It's going to be a really cold day for a lot of people in those areas. And let's not forget about the frigid temperatures up in Montana, Minnesota, and parts of the Dakotas, where we're seeing single digits and well below zero temperatures. Looking at the hazard map, it's like a winter wonderland with winter storm warnings and advisories lighting up across the central U.S. and the upper Midwest. There's another pocket of energy near the DC area in West Virginia. And up in the Northeast, we're going to see some intense weather as well. Meanwhile, in the warm sector, we've got widespread flood watches in place from East Texas all the way to the Southeast. On top of that, there's a significant risk of severe weather. So it's definitely an active day on the weather front. When we look back at the snowfall totals from the last few days, it's been pretty impressive. We saw that first storm up around Boston where they got some heavy snow, but further south, it moved toward the DC area, dropping 8 to 12 inches in some places. Now, the storm is affecting Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska, and we'll see those totals rise as we go through the afternoon. So if you're in these areas, be ready for some heavy snow and potentially dangerous travel conditions. Here's the water vapor map for the afternoon, and it's showing an abundance of moisture coming in from the Gulf. We've got a lot of upward rising air, which is just the perfect setup for severe storms. This also means flooding is a huge concern. Some places could see 6 to 8 inches of rain over the next 24 to 48 hours, which could lead to flash flooding. And all that moisture is feeding right into the winter storm, which is already causing disruptions. In fact, Virginia is seeing significant icing right now. We're already hearing about power outages in the state. So if you're in Virginia, make sure you're prepared for more ice and potential power issues as the day goes on. Later this afternoon, we're going to see an enhanced risk for tornadoes, especially in the yellow shaded areas on the map. That's where we could see F2 level tornadoes. And the ingredients are definitely in place for strong tornadoes. I'm really concerned about the areas from Southeast Texas into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama later today. Those areas are at the highest risk for tornadoes, and the situation will likely intensify as the day goes on. The storm will continue to push northeast, and we'll see the most severe weather affecting Alabama and Georgia as the evening and overnight hours approach. If you're following the radar this morning, you'll see that the southern parts of the warm sector are dealing with heavy rain, especially in Texas. That rain will become more intense as you move into the southeast, and we've got freezing rain in Virginia and parts of Oklahoma as we move further north. It's all snow in Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, and that snow is going to keep spreading northeast throughout the afternoon. By the time we get to Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, snow will be falling pretty heavily in those areas. Meanwhile, in the southeast, tornadoes will likely form from isolated supercell thunderstorms. These storms will rotate at the lower levels and could become surface based. So we really need to keep an eye on that, especially in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. The tornado risk will shift into Alabama and Georgia as we go into the evening, and those storms could keep going overnight. So be ready for widespread severe weather today, and keep an eye on the radar if you're in the southeast. Looking ahead, the next 48 hours are going to bring more rain, more snow, and more severe weather. I'm really concerned about the possibility of training supercells in some of these areas. That means these storms will continue to move over the same regions, which could lead to some serious rainfall totals, maybe 6 to 8 inches in some spots. And out west, there's another atmospheric river event coming in, bringing heavy rain to California. We could see flooding, mudslides, and heavy snow in the higher elevations. So if you're in California, make sure you're prepared for all that. We're also going to see more snow in the Rockies and Midwest as the storm moves inland. And if you're in Oklahoma, Missouri, or Iowa, be ready for more snow today and tomorrow. This storm is going to continue moving eastward, and by the time it reaches the Northeast, we'll see snow in upstate New York, New England, and parts of Quebec. As we head into Saturday, we're going to see another intense weather setup. There's a strong trough coming down, bringing more Arctic air, and we'll see severe weather in the southeast again, with tornadoes likely in areas like East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. We'll also see snow in parts of the Midwest, especially in places like Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. This system is going to bring more snow to Great Lakes and Northeast, and it will likely transition into snow for parts of New York, Pennsylvania, and the Midwest as well. By Saturday night and into Sunday, temperatures will drop 20 to 30 degrees below average in some areas. And this is going to create a huge freeze across parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. This is significant, especially for mid-February. In fact, by Monday morning, a freeze line could even make it to the coast. It's going to be some seriously cold air pushing south, and we'll likely see the coldest temperatures of the season in many parts of the country. So if you're in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, or Missouri, make sure you're ready for that Arctic blast. And the snow levels are expected to drop even further, possibly even affecting parts of Texas. This is a situation that could get pretty intense, especially by the middle of next week, when we're looking at some of the coldest air we've seen all season. Thanks for tuning in and watching. If you found this update helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future updates. I'll keep you covered before and after the storm, so stay safe out there.